Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Seco Sandlot. I'm your host, Charles Duncan.
And I'm Zach Berman.
How's it going, Zach? You doing good?
I'm ready. Week two of the show, at least. I'm
Thank you
feeling
so
good.
much.
Happy Wednesday.
Thank you so much for coming in, and I want to thank our viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have two very special guests joining the podcast today, both former players for Arroyo Seco Baseball, both known from famed high schools, and both went to D1 universities. The first is Bryce Gray. He went to high school at Flossmoor, and he played catcher at Notre Dame. The second is John Thomas, also known as JT. He went to Harvard Westlake and played first base for the University of Southern Cal, also my alum. It's going to be great to have these guys on the podcast today, and I'm super excited to see what they have to say. How do you feel, Zach?
It's always fun to get the input of two teammates that started out as rivals. Of course, SC and Notre Dame go way, way back. I don't know if they have a trophy for baseball. I know the football trophy is the Jewel Shillelagh, or maybe that's Stanford and Notre Dame. I want to say it's the Jewel Shillelagh. Don't quote me on that.
I
There's a
won't,
gazillion of those.
because I don't know
There's a
either.
gazillion
But
of those weird college football trophies, but yeah, USC and Notre Dame do not like each other. So it's interesting to see how two guys that started out on different, playing for bitter rivals, wound up being best friends.
Yeah, you said it, man. They're like I was going into. They're now best friends. They met on the Arroyo Seco Brookside Park baseball field, and they just hit it off. They thought that they had something. They both are fighting for social issues right now, and racial injustice, which I think is so key given the current climate. And it's really good to see them starting conversations that we need to start having. So it's great that they started this friendship. It's awesome to see that they're best friends. They've went to each other's houses. As we'll get to talking to them in a little bit here, but we got a little bit of a treat to talk to them before the podcast and just got a little info on them. So it's going to be awesome to see what they have to say, and we'll see what their viewpoints are on a lot of these issues.
As much as the wins and losses and what actually happens on the diamond is important of what makes up summer league baseball, the best parts of summer league, prep league, that sort of stuff is learning about these little inside jokes, these teammates that started out as enemies, they wound up as friends. The little things, like the relationships that are built over the span of 2 months. You don't have that much time really as teammates, and you come in from different backgrounds, different schools, and it's just get to work, go, 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 go. And it's awesome to see the bonds that are formed in just that short amount of time.
Well, yeah, and with summer camp, they have a little bit more freedom to work on their game because these coaches, as we talked with Aaron last week, they're just kind of it's a loan. These players are alone, so they have to return them in the same condition as they got them, and you can't really refine any or change any of their approaches to the game because then you'll get an angry coach who won't want to send them back the next summer. So it's awesome that these guys get a little bit of a chance like that to really connect with other people and to travel. They're starting to get kids from all over the place, and more of these friendships from longer distances are going to be forming. And as we heard Aaron say, this is why he does it, is for the relationships with these kids and to see them grow up and to see what they do. And Bryce and JT are a perfect example of that. And I'm really excited to get to know them even more and see what they have to bring to the table.
Absolutely. So what do you say? Let's get things started.
Yep, let's get them on the call.
I mean, like professionally, just like being organized and able to go about my business on my own, like not having somebody tell me what I need to do, just being able to do it just on my own. And I think just things that I value the most are just like the friendships I've made and the people I've met, the experience I've had. And,
I'm gonna say you better say me to me.
pretty much, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I talk to this dude pretty much every day, and since the first day we met with the Saints, we talked almost like every day. So, I mean, yeah, that's like the big thing that I take away from playing the summer ball. Is, I mean, it was fun playing, but it's the people we got to meet, the experience we got. That was the most fun for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, first and foremost, meeting Bryce, that was my favorite part. It's my guy. But as far as baseball goes, like, you know, when you're at college, like the coaches, you know, they get paid to coach, so they want to do all they can to make you be the best player you are, and sometimes that involves things like, you know, making changes to your swing that you don't like, or making changes to how you approach things. But the good thing about summer ball is, like, you're on your own. Like, the coaches are there, but they're not really there to change anything about you. They're just kind of there to run the show. So it gives you 40, 50, whatever games to kind of work on stuff on your own and, you know, figure out what works for you and what doesn't without having a coach in your ear every day.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well said, Trojan. Well said.
And have you guys gone to any Notre Dame and SC games together after?
Yeah, actually, was that the year after? Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah. The fall of 2019.
Whenever Notre Dame last played at NC, I flew out and came to the game.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah, fall 2018.
Yeah, it was a beautiful thing to see. A beautiful thing to see. Beautiful. See, Notre Dame put a whooping on SC, so it was a great trip.
Back-to-back years, yeah. Last year at Notre Dame and in 2018.
Yeah.
At our home turf, man. Yeah. For any people who don't know, I'm also an SC alum. Just graduated with John. As well.
Right? See that?
I hear that.
Gotta give him some love in the podcast. Don't want to look like I'm too biased, but Zach, I'll turn it over to you. You got some questions for him?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bryce, JT, what have you guys been doing to stay in shape, keeping that baseball mindset, even though you're not playing in organized games because of the pandemic? And how long do you think realistically it's going to be before things get back in the baseball world to a semblance of normalcy? Because as we're seeing college football, they're starting little by little to cast some doubt on the season. Big Ten has moved all their games to conference only. Pac-12 is expected to follow. So obviously football is a little bit harder to social distance in than baseball, because you got 52 guys, and that's not even 53 guys, and that's not even including your coaching staffs and your trainers. So where do you think this stands regarding baseball, maybe next season or down the line?
Well, so I mean, to first, I'm in the I don't know if I said situation. I'm done playing. So after the senior year, I decided to stop playing. Go finally get a real job and start working. So I don't have to worry about being in shape anymore. But you know, I think in terms of like the virus and the season and stuff like that, I think we're really just kind of on the getting started with everything. I mean, obviously nobody knows how long this is gonna last or what effects it will have, but I mean, personally, I don't think we're gonna have a football season this year, as much as I hate to say it. And I hope not, but that may spill over into the spring. So I hope it doesn't, because I mean, I also want the guys to, everybody who lost their season last year, to be able to play this upcoming year. But you know, it's all a question mark right now.
Yeah, I'm right there with Bryce. I don't really, as much as I would hate for this to happen, I don't really see any fall sports happening. Just don't see it works given the way everything's going, especially where I'm at in LA. As far as staying in baseball shape, you know, I've been lucky to have some friends at SC over years who have moved on to leagues, and so they have places to train, and they've invited me there. So I've been able to do stuff like that. So it hasn't really been too much of a challenge to find somewhere to train. Spend some time in training there, back in LA now, but it hasn't been too big of a challenge. It's something I like to do anyway. It gives me it's kind of like my happy place. So getting to do that during quarantine is like the best part of the day.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, like you guys have been talking about. You know, I read that Stanford, they're canceling up to 11 sports, in the fall.
Yeah.
It's like women's volleyball, men's volleyball, all these other ones. And football, I think, is the only one that hasn't been the for sure takeaway yet. So I think you're right, Bryce. I think they're on their way to just not having a college football season this year.
Yeah, but I mean, the NCAA is definitely going to hold out to the very last minute to cancel football leagues because of how much money football makes for just everybody. So
for sure, and especially like SC, they're still trying to sell some of these season tickets, and who knows if they're going to get a refund. It's crazy.
I mean,
go ahead, Zach.
In Missouri, like, people are still convinced, at least within like the football program, the athletic department, like obviously what they actually think and what they're saying to the public is completely different. But like they're still talking about, oh, we can have students come to the games. I live in New Jersey. We've been through hell and back. I've seen how bad it can get. I live 5 minutes from a major hospital, and for about 2 months on end, all you could hear were ambulance sirens through the night. So I personally do not think it's going to happen. But, yeah, I get it from an NCAA standpoint. They've already lost one of their two big money makers the year in the tournament. So they're going to do everything in their power to not lose football, but I don't think it's looking good.
Yeah, so to continue on, guys, along these same lines, with everything going on, my next question was going to be, how significant do you think politics and everything plays in college sports right now? And do you think that these players should be getting paid like yourselves? Do you think that you should have gotten some compensation while you were there?
Yes. I mean, my short answer is yes. I don't think people realize how much of a commitment playing a college sport is. What people just see is they see the games and they see, all the nice stuff. But especially with baseball, there'll be times where 40 hours out of your week, you're practicing, traveling, playing. There are plenty of times where we would play a Sunday afternoon game finished 5, 6 o'clock. We didn't charter our flights, so we were in the airport to 9 p.m. flying to Chicago, getting to Chicago midnight. But we still had to drive from Chicago to South Bend, so that's another 2.5 hours. So there are plenty of nights where I'm not getting back to school until 3 o'clock in the morning on Mondays, and then 9 o'clock class, you better be there. So that's just kind of a short answer, but I do think obviously these student athletes should be compensated, or at least be able to get compensation off their name, image, and likeness. I think the tricky question with that is obviously Notre Dame football player is going to get a lot more than a Notre Dame lacrosse player, something like that. So that's kind of like the intricacies that need to be worked out. But shorthand, I believe they should.
Yeah, I think the last part of that, what Bryce said, as far as name, image, and likeness, is something that I feel pretty strongly about. Should we get paid just to be athletes at a Division I school? No, is my opinion. Should we have full opportunity to capitalize off of our name and image? Yes, because being a student athlete, like, it's a full-time job. 100%, and given that, like, we don't have time like regular students do to take a job on the side and make some money. So now, like, you get a full-time job that you're not getting paid for. We don't have any way to make money while we're in school. So, okay, then it's like, you get your stipend check and that pays for rent, but not a whole lot more. So we're left with no way to make money whatsoever, which is tough. So if there was a way, if you had your own business and you could kind of spin it as Bryce Gray, Notre Dame baseball player, like, that would get it some more attention than just a normal student trying to start something. So I feel like you need to be able to use that to your advantage so that you can make a little bit of money. Because, like I said, there's no other way for us to have any kind of income.
Yeah. Right. I know a lot of people who have, athletes who have, they started their own businesses or want to start their own business, but just simply because they're college athletes, they've had to make decisions on whether or not to play their sport or just hold off. So, I think there's situations like that where, a normal student, they can go and start their own business or do whatever while they're in school. And so, and as an athlete, we can't. I think little things like that, that's just kind of difficult. But I definitely think they should, as a college athlete, you should definitely have every right to profit off your name, image, and likeness because the schools are doing the same thing.
Agreed. And it's crazy to see that, some of these student athletes, can't even buy their next meal, or they can't, they're so busy that they can't they can't have a lunch or anything like that. And like you were saying, you get home at 3 a.m. What if you have a quiz in that 9 a.m. class? You can't grab a breakfast because you need to study. So
yeah,
it's a tough schedule. I know a lot of my buddies were student athletes, and the conversation I had with them were just like, it's frustrating and annoying. I bet more for you guys, but just for me hearing about this, that, you can't even afford some of these meals. It's crazy. And I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Zach.
Yeah, the fact that as a journalist, we don't even hear about a lot of that stuff. Like when I think of student athletes getting paid and the whole discussion regarding that, I think of Johnny Manziel getting suspended for signing autographs and name and likeness related stuff and NCAA video games. This is the stuff you don't hear about. They don't talk about this in the media. They don't talk about baseball players or basketball players not being able to live meal to meal. And I think it is a responsibility of the school, if they want you to play for their school, represent their colors, they should be able to provide you with some of the things that could make your life a little bit easier, because there's a reason they put student athlete in front of athlete student. As much as sports are a huge part of why you might have gone to Notre Dame or USC or who knows where, your first priority is to go there to get a degree and get out there studying.
He just said he got kicked out. I was like, he's coming back, but no, I completely agree. But it's funny. It's funny if you ask a lot of student athletes, a lot of my friends, and we've gotten that question. Are you student athletes or athlete students? And most of us will say we're athlete students first, because the commitment we have to put into our sport at times is more than the commitment we're even able to put into school. But at the same time, we still have to perform in school, because if we don't perform, we can't play. So it's a tough. We basically have 2 full-time jobs, and but that's what we signed up for, and we understand what we're getting into. So,
all right, my next question. Obviously, 2020 has been a tumultuous year, and a lot of things that have been plaguing American society, whether it be police brutality, racial inequities, racial injustice, and everything regarding that matter, that's come to a head of steam, and there are more voices out standing for what should be right and common sense among all Americans. Yeah. As athletes, how do you feel about using your platform to stand up for what you believe in? Because, of course, there's been a lot of blowback from politicians or maybe some media figures, the whole shut up and dribble, or just stick to sports. Yeah. Like when someone tells me as a journalist, stick to sports, in the last 4 months, I look at them like, what sports am I supposed to stick to? Not in this country, there's nothing to stick to. So I want to hear from you guys. You're Division I baseball players. How do you use your platforms? Because people look up to you, kids, you're role models.
Yeah.
How do you get up there and stand for what you think is right?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, as athletes or professional athletes, you don't have to. You don't have to. But me personally, I believe you should. If you have that platform to if you have a platform where people listen to you, to where people look up to you and want to know what you're going to say, I think you don't have to, but I think you should stand up and speak for what's right. So, I think it's been nice to see, especially as of late, in the last couple of months, a lot of these people, a lot of athletes, and a lot of people who hadn't really said much before are coming out and speaking. speaking up for themselves. And then like you got the normal people like LeBron, who's always spoken up and always said something. So you got the normal people who are still doing it. But I think especially as college athletes, like you said, we got a lot of people who look up to us and who see us, and many of them want us to just stick to our sports and not really have a voice. But I think especially in times like right now, it's very important for us to have a voice, and not necessarily to please anybody else, but just to be able to speak our minds and to be able to say what we think and what we need to say. Because, like you said, like a lot of times, college athletes, they kind of put them muzzled up. We're not professionals, we're not making money, so we're kind of at the discretion of our coaches and our universities. But I think it's definitely time for that to change, and I think I've seen a lot of that. A lot of college programs and athletes in specific have decided to speak up and say that, yeah, we're not standing for this anymore, and change has happened already.
Yeah, no, I think Bryce hit it perfectly. Obviously, you don't have to speak up in our positions. Personally, I feel a responsibility to do so. I think that, growing up, I looked at athletes, whoever it was, whether it was Kobe or Russell Westbrook, like those are my kind of favorite athletes, and the way they did things kind of shaped the way I did things. So my view of it is like we get all these kids at our games, and it's not the same level that the Lakers or Westbrook would get at his games, but we do get kids at our games, and they follow us on Instagram, and they see what we're doing, and so my view is like if they look up to me the way that I looked up to the athletes I looked up to, like the stuff I do can inspire them to be the same way, and that's what USC baseball and being a D1 athlete is really about to me at this point. As I've grown older, is finding a way to pass what I've learned on to the next generation so that they can carry it on. Mm-hmm. So for me to sit around and be silent, like among other things, would just be it would be a waste of opportunity to kind of teach these younger kids the way that I believe that they should go about things and the way that I believe that they should feel about the things going on in our country.
Yeah, totally. And what kind of did you have more to add?
No.
Okay. And what kind of conversations have you been having? Because I've been having a lot of conversations with my friends trying to, just talk about this and make sure we're heading in the right direction and, everything that's been going on. And I love that we can have these conversations. I think it's a good thing. It keeps us united. And I'm wondering if you guys have had any conversations and what you guys are doing in terms of creating your own change.
Yeah, as a Black man, it's obviously what happened with George Floyd definitely hit hard, right? And it's not the first time we've seen that, but something about that situation and the response to it just felt different. It felt like there was a lot more people who kind of woke up and like, okay, like this is enough and enough. We need to say something. So I've had a lot of conversations with my peers who are non-African American peers who are like, look, what can I do? Let me just kind of just asking if I'm okay or just things like that. So that's been nice to see. So I've had a lot of conversations like that. And, in terms of just doing things, change for myself, like trying to help change myself, I think the big thing for me is just trying to make sure people just stay educated on what's going on and stay aware of what's going on and just understand that, like, look, this is the reality that as a Black man who, I've got a younger brother, like this is a reality that we live with every day, every day walking outside, and it's kind of become subconscious. So it's not something that I'm worried about, but it's something that I live with every day. And, the fact that I graduated from Notre Dame, the fact that I have done everything I've done and have pretty much never been in trouble, yet at the end of the day, there can be a situation where because of the color of my skin that something bad happens to me. So, I think just trying to have people understand that's the biggest thing for me. And it's not a situation where I want people to feel bad for me. That's not the case. It's something that is just the reality of the situation that I'm in. And you know what? I'm going to continue to live with it. It's not a problem. It's not going to stop me from enjoying my life or living a happy life. But just having people understand that, like, that's the reality African American people in this world live in. And I mean, as African American men, it's that, and then also you see a lot of people, so like a lot of African American trans men and women, they're being killed and hurt at an even higher rate than just what's going on with regular men and women. So I think that's the next step of getting to understand that not just African American, but just like the LGBT community as a whole. You know, you're seeing a lot of them being harmed and a lot of that community being hurt just because of who they are. And I don't think that's right. I mean, I think every man and woman is created equal, no matter what your sexual orientation is. And I think that's the next step that we got to get as a country to understand that just because this person's different from you doesn't make them any less than you. So we're a long way away from that. We've obviously have gotten a lot better than where we were 50 years ago, 100 years ago. But you know, it's going to be a constant learning and constant battle to get that through.
Yeah, for me, as a white man who grew up with every kind of privilege, right? I'm a white, straight male from a suburban area in Los Angeles. It's my responsibility to be an ally to the Black community, to the LGBTQ plus community, right? Because it's not, with everything going on, it's not the Black community that's at fault. It's not the LGBTQ plus community that's at fault. It's the white community, and it's the privileged people who need to make a change for things in the country to change. Like we are the ones who need to make this change. It's not the Black community. It's not the LGBTQ plus community. It's not them. It's us. So for me, those conversations that you were talking about, it's, you know, I play baseball. It's a predominantly white sport, and where I go to school, it's a predominantly white team. A lot of, you know, Southern California is a hot spot for baseball. Orange County, we got a lot of white kids from Orange County. And part of my responsibility, I feel like, is to make them understand that it's us who needs to make change. Like it's us who needs to change for everything to change as a whole, right? So as far as how those conversations go, it's for me, the biggest thing for me has been trying to make people understand that, like, the systems of power in this country are built like so strong with so much prejudice that for white supremacy to kind of flourish, like you don't have to actively be about it. Like, all you have to do is be silent, because that's how the systems of power were built in this country. So if all you have to do is be silent, then that's a problem. And unfortunately, it's true. So what I'm trying to get across to people is you got to speak up, and you got to speak up to what side you're on, because it's this or that. And if you're on the other side, I don't have any time for that. Like, that's how I see it.
You're right, JT, and I totally agree. I think if you're silent, you're complicit with it. So I think that was a great point for you guys to bring up. I also think that Bryce's point was something that I've been thinking about consistently, was that I'm so glad that we're moving in the right direction, especially with all the protests going on. But we can't forget any of the other groups that we've worked so hard to get rights for, and to build work and build, you know, unity and equality amongst everyone, man or woman, like you said, Bryce. So I think that was a really good point, and I hope that we could continue to strive in the right direction with any and all groups. I think it's going to be great. And
But
go ahead.
going off of what JT is saying, like, yes, I completely agree. I grew up in a small town on the Jersey Shore that I like to joke is about as diverse as a loaf of Wonder Bread with the crust cut off. But I think it's really, really, really infuriating that it took something like George Floyd to really take people and say, this is not okay. This should not be happening in this country that we are taught in school that is the greatest place. It's the greatest nation on earth. It's a shining city on the hill. And then once you start looking into it, you realize, oh my goodness, like, they abolished slavery back in the 1860s, and then you look deeper, I'm like, did they really though? Like, it's horrifying, and it should make everybody angry, no matter what your color, race, gender, creed, religion, you name it. Now, for one, I was never afraid to speak up for what I believed in, whether that would be marching in D.C. after the Parkland shooting or tweeting or doing whatever it takes. But I just feel as an American, there is an obligation to speak out for what you believe in. And while I'm not one that's like, you should be ashamed of yourself if I disagree with you, at the same time, like, I definitely feel a lot more of like, you should be thinking this. Like, if you don't believe in Black Lives Matter, if you don't believe in equal rights for all, then maybe it was the way you were raised, or maybe it was the people you grew up with, or maybe it was the mindset that was instilled in your family values. But
Zach, we gotta extend the time, buddy.
I literally just put in. Oh my goodness!
I didn't want to cut off, so sorry I had to do that too. But we have less than a minute, so do you know how to extend the Zoom time?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and figure this out.
I just saw that in the corner. I was like, oh, we gotta wrap it up.
Currently on a basic plan. Okay, recommended plan. Let's see if I can do this in less than a minute. Upgrade now. No, wait. Now, if all goes to plan, there we go.
Okay, good.
You know, before we get back to what I was saying, I think as much as it's awesome to like be able to communicate with three guys from California that are, well, I'm in New Jersey, like I believe that the whole pandemic has really made it more important and apparent than ever how valuable face-to-face communication is.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it doesn't hit the same.
Nah, for sure. And kind of just a little bit to just kind of hit back on the point you made, Zach. You know, I was kind of, when everything initially happened with George Floyd, and, you know, obviously, like I said, felt like the response was a little bit different. As in, like, a lot more people speaking up. You know, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of angered me a little bit. It's like in my initial thoughts were like, where were all these people when Trayvon Martin was killed? Where were all these people when Tamir Rice? Like, so, you know, and my initial response was like, okay, where has everybody been? But, you know, I had to kind of take a step back and look at it like, you know what? It doesn't matter. They're here now. They're speaking up now, and that's all that really matters going forward. And so, you know, at this point, it's just getting as many people to speak up and try to make change as possible. That's the most important thing right now.
I totally. Go ahead, Zach.
Does have to wonder, maybe it was because there were no distractions. Like Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, all of those horrifying murders happened when life was still going on as normal. And now a lot of people, maybe they don't wake up and go to the office in the morning. They don't watch sports at night. They're not going out to the bars, or they shouldn't be going out to the bars, or going to movies or anything like that. And it's like, it pains me to say it because it's just like, I feel sick to my stomach just thinking about it this way. But like, maybe it had to take something like that to really bring attention to people and say, this is happening under our noses in this country, and something needs to be done about it because it is not okay. It is not normal. And this is something that really is a strictly American problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think both of those points are right on point. Going off of what you were talking about what Bryce was saying about more people speaking up, you know, obviously it would have, like he was saying, it would have been great for those people to be speaking up when Trayvon Martin was killed back then. But it is, you know, while it's not perfect, it is great that there is this response right now. I think, you know, you look at getting back to athletes, like you look at like entire leagues. The NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League, came back and and they've made it a point to be very outspoken for the Black Lives Matter movement. The MLS is doing it. The WNBA, which, as Bryce knows, is one of my favorite leagues. I love basketball. They're doing an incredible job. They haven't even started yet. They have, superstars sitting out to be on the front lines of this. One that sticks out to me, Natasha Cloud. She's a point guard for the Washington Mystics. And a lot of stuff I've said has come from an article that she wrote in the Players Tribune. It's people like that are the leaders in our society. And I know there was the whole story with Kyrie, and he was saying, well, I'm willing to give up everything I have for social reform. Like, okay, that's cool, but we want to see you do it. Like Natasha Cloud, like those WNBA players, they're doing it. They're giving up their entire season, and they're actually doing it.
Well,
How many Desmond too? Yeah, all these guys. They're making.
Seasons did Maya Moore sit out?
What's up?
How many seasons did Maya Moore not play?
Yeah, Maya Moore. Yeah, I mean Maya Moore stepped away from basketball in her. I think she was 29 or 30, so in her prime, to help fight a criminal justice reform case, and she's helped Jonathan Irons, who's been in prison, I believe, for 23 years. I want to say it was 1997. I could be wrong about that. Wrongfully convicted, and he was freed just last week. So, it's leagues like that give hope to this country because these women are true leaders, and it's really inspiring.
And I mean, of course, it's not just them. Like, look at Colin Kaepernick knew what he was doing. He knew that he would make a lot of people very upset, and he was risking his chance to be a starting quarterback in the NFL by speaking out for what he thought was right and taking a knee. And he hasn't let the fact that he was cut, cursed out by the president, dragged through the mud by the media, gotten death threats. He hasn't let that affect what he believes in, how he's continued to speak out. And yes, there are athletes that are speaking out, but maybe it does take a Maya Moore or a Colin Kaepernick to really put their foot down and say, I am willing to put what I believe in over the sport that I was playing beforehand.
I mean, I think people like Kaepernick, Natasha Cloud, Maya Moore, and many more people who have basically said, like, look, yeah, I love this sport or whatever, but it's not as important as what's going on now. I mean, I think those are national heroes because they're doing something like the sacrifice that they've made. I mean, it's crazy the sacrifice that they've made, but they're doing it for something that they believe in, and I think that should be just uplifted. And when we get through this, like those stories should be the stories that are told. Those are the people that we should be put on a pedestal because they're the ones that are making true sacrifices, not just for themselves but for their families and standing up for what they believe in.
Totally. Yeah, and it's cool to see even on the baseball side, players like Ian Desmond and hopefully so many others can follow in his steps and sit out for the season. And, because baseball is one of the most, racial and prejudiced sports that we've seen right now. And everything with the Red Sox has just been horrible. So I really appreciate these players taking a stand and showing light to these issues that need to be eradicated in sports right now. It's horrible. We are.
I think. Oh, go ahead, Bryce.
Go ahead.
In terms of baseball, we can't forget about what was the guy from the A's, but Bruce Maxwell.
Yeah.
The first guy to kneel in the baseball and basically was blackballed the same. So I mean, guys like that, they were ahead of their time. You just only think about what if they would have waited and knelt now, then they would be fine. But they were willing to sacrifice. I mean, like you said, just like Kaepernick, especially in baseball, he knew what the consequences could have been and what they ended up being. So I mean, just people like that, you just got to make sure. We need to make sure everybody knows those stories and appreciate them for what they did.
Yeah, and taking it back even further, obviously baseball's got Jackie Robinson, broke the race barrier, but Curt Flood too. In the late '60s, he was traded and he refused to play, and he was kind of the pioneer of free agency in baseball. So, it traces back pretty far. I think, like Bryce said, it's important that people know, who these heroes are that took true stands.
Yeah. I think especially like kind of JT said. I mean, I know who Kurt Flood is, but I'm willing to bet most people don't. Like, so I mean, I think there's in like you said, with a lot of everything going on, you hear Laurie Ingram telling LeBron and them to shut up and dribble. But the thing about it is, in sports, there's like, especially not just African American, but in sports, there's been a long history of activism in sports that it seems to get glossed over, not forgotten, but people don't talk about it. So I think that's a big thing that we need to make sure that we know or that people know is that no, these athletes aren't just becoming activists now. Like, this isn't something new. This is something that's been going on for years and years and decades. These athletes have stood up and said something. So I think that's really important that people, not just a normal person who just has a baseline knowledge of sport, needs to know that this isn't something new. These athletes now are building off of history and legacy of the ones that came before them and doing the same things that they've done. It's just more, with social media and more cameras and technology, it's more in your face. You're seeing it more. It's more out there. So I think that's a big thing that we got, especially in the sports world. Like, this isn't new. This has been going on for years and years and years, and people need to know that.
Kurt Flood, man, you're going back. That's Cincinnati Redlegs, man. I mean, yeah. I know who Curtis Flood is. I took Felonzer along with John Thomas over here, so he knows all about Curtis Flood. We had a quiz question on him back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're talking. I'm glad that we're starting to educate on the history of how long this has actually been going on, and I think that's awesome that you brought that up, man. I think more people need to know who Curtis Flood is and how long that this has really been going on for. So thank you for bringing that up. We are running a little short on time, and I don't want anyone to cut off. I have one more question, and then I'm going to ask, if there's anything else you want to add to anything that we just talked about. So the one thing that I forgot to ask that I did want to get in was, when you were at Seco, how did you walk in as enemies, quote unquote, and walk away friends? Was there something like this that you kind of agreed upon? Was there a common goal that you walked out with? Or was it, how did it go? Did Touchdown Jesus play a role? Well, what happened?
I'm going to let JT tell the story too. But basically, long story short, the first day, he just came up to me and we started talking. And from that point on, it was every day. I mean, it was to the point where our teammates thought we didn't like anybody else, which was not the case. It was not the case. We loved all our teammates, but we were just so in sync and talked to each other so much that was just, he was my boy. And like I said, literally, from that point on up until now, we've talked, if not every day, 4 to 5 times every week. So it's, I've been out there twice, I stayed at his apartment a couple times, and, I slept on his broken air mattress a couple times. So that's just it. That's
great. What about you, John?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, from day one, we just kind of clicked. And like he said, like it got to a point where, I think everyone could tell how close we were, and it was kind of a coincidence that we were like the 2 kids from the big schools. So I think guys started to feel like we didn't like them because they were from smaller schools and we were something like that. But that really wasn't the case. Like, we just got along really well. The team would do things and they wouldn't invite me and Bryce. So then me and Bryce would do things and we wouldn't invite the team. And I guess they didn't like that. But we had no hard feelings against anybody. We liked all of them. We just meshed really well. Literally from the first practice with the Saints, and then obviously we spent every day together the whole summer being on the team, and it just kind of turned into, that next fall, Notre Dame was coming out here to play, so Bryce flew in the day after Thanksgiving and stayed the weekend with me. I know he's still waiting for me to come to Chicago, but
still no time yet.
But yeah, so yeah, it was pretty natural right away. We just kind of meshed.
That's awesome. I love the broken air mattress story.
Yeah, man.
Hilarious. That's so college, man. It's like, oh, it's one of my buddy's broken hair match.
Right, give me a break.
No, the best part about like the college experience and just like playing on sports teams, like I never even played past like junior year of high school, but like getting to like all those little like inside jokes and stories with your teammates, that's arguably more satisfying than anything you actually do on the field.
No, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's a part of it, man. I mean, summer ball and like kind of JC said early in the call, like, you know, I think the fun thing about summer ball, it's a lot more. I mean, you know what you're there to do. You know, everybody's there to work on their own individual things and kind of try to come together as a team to win. But, you know, it's a lot more relaxed and a lot more just chill. And, you know, not I wouldn't say it's more fun because, I mean, I did competing in my college season, you know, that high pressure situation, that's so much fun. But, I mean, it's just a lot more relaxed. So, you know, you get to do some more things they may not necessarily do. And, you know, so it's just a good experience. Summer ball is so much fun, and you know I'm sad that I won't be playing anymore. So, but it was definitely that summer I spent in Pasadena was one of my best.
I'm glad, yeah. I'm just glad it was a good experience, and I'm glad that you guys came together. SC Notre Dame, unlike that's awesome, man. It's super cool. I love that you guys still are friends today. You text like 4 to 5 times a week. That's awesome. I have a buddy just like that, so it's great to see that friendship right now, especially. You know, just with everything going on, I'm glad that, you know, we could still show that we could be united. We could still have conversations, and that's really important right now. So thank you guys.
Yeah, and
go ahead, John.
One more thing. If you need like a picture to add to this interview, like I do have a picture of Bryce in a USC shirt, so I'll be glad to share that.
Over. Yes. Yeah, if he lost the bet or something, I'll play on that too. That'll be great.
I will be glad to send that over.
JT, I just need a picture of you in a leprechaun hat, and we'll just okay.
See, that did happen because I'm loyal. I'm loyal, but you know, I think I actually have 2 different pictures of him in a SC shirt.
Oh, Bryce lost 2 bets. Come on, man.
I think it was just one.
This is just.
I remember one of them. I did. He did give me a shirt. Okay, so like look, kind of like growing up. So my grandma lives in Pasadena. She lived my whole life. So SC was my dream school growing up. I will say that it was my dream school growing up. But obviously, I've had a change of heart. That little Catholic school in South Bend definitely has my heart. So, yeah.
Right. I gotta ask.
Yeah.
A serious question. How much on like the Notre Dame campus and like in and around South Bend do people like actually worship Rudy? I gotta ask.
You know, I wouldn't say as much as you think anymore, just because like younger generations and everything.
I know.
And actually, but so it's funny. So growing up, I didn't dislike Notre Dame, but I just didn't really have an opinion on them. I didn't really care. My dad went to U of I, so SC was my dream school. So SC and U of I were like my 2 schools. I honestly don't even know if I knew Notre Dame was in Indiana. So I didn't know until they came calling, and once they started calling, I was like, oh wow, okay, this is something good. So I you know, probably all the Notre Dame fans would be mad at me for this. I didn't watch Rudy until actually the summer when I was in Pasadena on one of those long bus trips. I finally was like, you know what, I'll just finally watch Rudy. It was a good movie. It was good, but I met him before I watched the movie. I met him my freshman year.
Oh, that's cool.
We used to have a haunted house we would convert our field and all our locker rooms to haunted house just for kids. And we finished our shift in a haunted house, and there was just 2 guys in our locker room. And me and my buddy Cam Brown, who actually came to Arroyo Seco with me, he left early. We just walked in the locker room, and there was 2 guys and had no idea who they were. I mean, couldn't tell you who they were. So then we went out to take a team picture, and our director of operations, she was like, "You know who that was, right?" Like, no, like I have no idea. It was a little short Italian guy. I was like, no,
yeah, right.
She was like, that was Rudy. I was like Rudy? She's like, yeah. So but I didn't tell any of my teammates that he was in there. So as soon as we took the picture, I ran back in, took a couple of pictures with him, and then a couple minutes later, everybody found out, so they were all there. He's a super cool dude, and you know, really down to earth. But yeah, so. He's obviously a mythical figure at Notre Dame, but you know the younger generations aren't as infatuated with him as much as the older generations are.
That's unfortunate, man. Rudy's the best.
Yeah.
Love that
Nah,
movie.
he was super cool. He was real cool, dude.
That's awesome. Well, we do got to wrap up, but if there is anything else that you guys wanted to say real quick, was there anything else that was left unsaid? I just want to make sure that you guys are good.
No, I think we hit it all.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Make sure I
All
have
right.
us on and
Thank you
having
guys
me
for
on,
joining.
and,
Thank you
go
so
Irish.
much for taking the time to come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Go Irish.
Yeah, fight on.
Oh, baby. Send those pictures, JP. I'll be looking for them.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Have a
Thank
good
you
weekend,
so much.
man.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Great weekend.